I wanted to just share with you guys just how we've experienced wild foods the past couple years. How many of you here are interested in wild foods? Did you come to see the wild? Wow, wow, everybody. Okay, well, we just got into it a couple years back, and I think for me the interest was just survival, just knowing what I could eat out in the woods, how to identify it properly, and but then when I started studying the nutritional profile of so many of these plants, I was like, wow, we should be eating these things now. Why are we just wasting them? And so before you hear, right, all this area right here, we have an organic garden that my dad tends to, and we do a lot of things to naturally keep away the weeds. And one of the things that we do is heavy mulching. But something we discovered that's even better than weeding is actually eating the weeds. There's no better revenge as a gardener than eating weeds. So, and another thing that it does, whenever you start to learn the weeds in your garden and how to eat them and how to cook with them, you'll find that you're actually increasing the yield of your garden by 2 or 3 times because you're eating more of it, not throwing it away. I think when I talk to people about gardening, the number one thing that they tell me is they don't have enough time. Don't have enough time to garden. That's just I've got a really busy schedule. It's just not something I can put in my lifestyle. And I have a hard time not laughing because before you right here stands one of the busiest men I know. And he almost single-handedly works on this garden by himself. And beyond, you guys know him as the owner of Prairie Market, so we have a health food store. He's a pastor. He also owns a roofing business. He's building my sister's house, which is that first building right down there. And he just does a lot. So listen to this guy. He's got a lot of good tips, and when he says this is time saving and this is a good way to do it, listen to him. He's got a lot of good information. So without further ado.
Can I have one of those handouts?
Yes. Sorry. If I've missed anyone, let me know. I'm trying to walk around. Raise your hand.
I want this to be a sharing experience. So, I mean, I want to share some information. Hannah does too. But I really want to hear from you too, because a lot of you in certain areas are way beyond me in your knowledge. I'm just a novice. I have a passion for a few things in life. I really don't have any degrees in anything. But I will say this, that working with gardens and orchards and prairies and that kind of stuff is a very humbling process, because there's an immense volume of information out there, and about the time you think you know a little bit, you get a real humbling experience. And that's why I garden primarily. It just keeps me humble, because by the time I think I've got something figured out, it lets me know different. So you're probably going to see some and you're going to say, well, you know, my onions look better than Mel's. I bet you they do, and I'm glad for that. Some things do well some years, some things do well and they don't. But I'd like to just share with you what I've got and how I do it, and we'll go from there. So this is very informal. Ask questions, love questions.
The handouts here are kind of set up as we identify something. The reason why I have these numbers here is we'll say what it is, what the wild food is. Most of them are just hanging out here in the garden and around this area. And you guys can write it next to the number. And the reason I did this is so you can just take a picture, if y'all have picture phones, so you can know, well, my first picture was of sorrel, or my second picture was lamb's quarter.
Did you bring that mullein around yet?
No, I'll go get it.
Well, you want to start with lamb's quarter?
Sure.
What, you know this one well. You start that. I'm gonna go get a mullein.
It's the third page if y'all want to look. The reason why I just picked 2 plants to just highlight is because I really feel like these are 2 really good, easy plants to start with as far as wild foods. And when I started wild foods, I just wanted to know what I could eat. And now I want to add it into my diet in a practical way. And so this guy right here is lamb's quarters. And this just came up volunteer. And what I love about what my dad does is he identified this coming up when it was about this tall, and he bricked around it so we wouldn't hit it with the mowers or trimmers. And he just let it just grow up right here. So I am not exaggerating, my kids can vouch for me. Every morning we come out to make our green smoothies. We're gathering the things that we want to put in it. We pick between 20 and 30 tips and leaves off this entire plant every morning. So since it's, I don't know, it's been this big probably 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's thriving. It grows by the day.
Another name for lamb's quarters here is wild spinach, and it is in the same family. And it tastes like it. If anyone wants to come forward and get a little snag of it.
You got to just try one. Just when you walk by, try it. And
I think it's better than spinach.
Yeah. And as summer progresses, you'll see the bottom of this leaf get white. That's calcium. It's a great form of calcium, soluble calcium.
Of course, the smaller plants that are immature are more tender, and they taste better. So we're working off an old plant here, but we've got them
Right on the tips, you'll get better.
right. Or the
I need to
smaller
pick
ones.
around without
You
bumping
can
my
cook it
camera.
just like you do spinach. The nutritional profile for this is just amazing. It basically knocks spinach just out of the water. It's 3 to 4 times more iron than spinach. It's a great source of trace minerals and B complex. To put it in perspective, a half cup of cooked lamb quarters contains 300 milligrams of calcium, and spinach only has 93 grams. Just to let you know, it's calcium content too. So, on the back side of this page, one really important thing that you guys need to research on your own in a good book and good people that have knowledge. Also really important to have around whenever you're foraging for wild foods. You need to know if there's any dangerous lookalikes. You need to positively identify the foods because you can be eating the wrong one. Lamb's quarter does have a lookalike that's dangerous, and poisonous lookalike, I've never found one around here, but it doesn't mean that it's not around here. And how you're going to know is whenever you break it open, there's going to be like a white, milky, resinous residue. And it's going to stink. It's not going to smell very nice because lamb's quarters is very, very mild in its smell. So you're just going to be looking for those two things for poisonous lookalike. For those of you who have the Linda Runyon book that we sell at Prairie Market or have been to any of my classes about it, she has pictures of the dangerous lookalike and a whole section on it towards the back of the book. That's just good to know. You can also eat the seeds. My girls wrote a little report on it the other day. Lamb's quarters seeds you can grind into a flour. Native American Indians would do it. This is a native plant. Another thing you can do are the roots. You can wash them off and suds them up and make a soap out of it. So just kind of some fun things you can learn about lamb's quarter.
Does it flower?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What color?
Well, it's not a collar, but it'll put a little seed on the end of it. And chickens love the seeds. Did you say that?
Well, another common name for it, if you look at the list at the top, is goosefoot or pigweed, fat hen. It makes hens fat. You know, so a lot of these common names will be like
Now,
that.
it is a plant that you don't want to let go to seed in your garden, or you'll have more of them than you want to eat the next year. So you really need to try to keep it from going to seed because it can be a very invasive plant.
Or have a separate wild foods garden, which is what I'm after.
Or quit tilling and start mulching, and it won't be a problem. I don't have it coming up in my garden because it doesn't get the opportunity with the mulch. But you till, that plant loves disturbed ground. Here's another one loves disturbed ground. When you bulldoze woods and you clean out, boy, does this one ever come on. This is the old common mullet. My dad used to see one, he'd spot anyone over here. My dad was a dairyman, this farm over here years ago. He had us yank every one of these out, but he didn't understand the benefit of this plant. And we've talked on some classes, some of you have sat in classes on the mullet.
This is
spell that?
another
M-U-L-L.
E-I-N.
E-I-N.
E-I-N, okay.
Another common name for this is cowboy toilet paper. Can you guys guess what it is? So, this one's really good for respiratory elements, lungs. A lot of people use mullet to
Kind of reminds you of lamb's ear, you know? Isn't that what they call that house? That
And it
plant?
is edible. The smaller leaves towards the top that are younger, you guys want to pull this? Are definitely edible. And a good way to get this one down, because who wants to chew on a leaf like this, it does have a lot of benefits, would be to throw it in your green smoothie. That'd be a great way to disguise it.
These leaves are very nutrient rich, and you can actually fertilize other plants by pulling that leaf off and laying it around mulching with it. Because a mullein goes down real deep and pulls a lot of mineral up from the soil. And what's interesting about the mullein is, like I said, when you disturb and they grow, and they can be very thick, in a few years they're gone. They come in and they bring the mineral up, they've done their job, and now they're gone. Other things replace them. This is some of the best ear medicine for earache that you could ever make. Tell us how to do that.
So what you're looking for are the blooms on the top of melon. And so you just harvest the blooms, pull them off. You know, ideally, it'd be nice to just plant these in the ground. It's only going to last a couple days in a bucket of water. But just put them into a jar of olive oil or some type of a carrier oil so it can slowly infuse in there, and just add the blooms as they come off because you want the fresh yellow ones. And you can look up a recipe on the internet for it. Some people add garlic because garlic is also a natural, mild antibacterial, and it makes an excellent ear oil. So this is stuff you do now, and then you'll be thankful in the wintertime. This is what I do when I harvest and dry all my stuff, and the wintertime comes, I'm like, man, I'm sure glad I did that.
Okay, so we've looked at two, lamb's quarter and mullein here. What do we want to look at next? Do we know?
Well, do we want to do wilds or do we want to just start this?
Well, we
Can we talk about raspberries real quick?
Yeah. Okay. These raspberries here are not thriving because they're new plants, and some of them hasn't made it. But I've got more to put in here. This is a red heritage raspberry. I've had really good luck with raspberries, and you don't want black ones near red ones. You may know that because the black ones have a disease that attracts the red ones. So don't bring black and red ones together. Tell us about the leaf of the raspberry.
The leaf of the raspberry, as many of you women probably know, is a tonic for women. Very, very good for the female body system. Very good for pregnant women, nursing women to do raspberry leaf. I just buy the handful, dry these things, and save them over for winter time and make my raspberry tea. But something I've been doing recently is just eating them raw. The tips, the very top tips are just nice and soft. You can throw those in a green smoothie. Sometimes our green smoothies in the morning have 20 plus ingredients, and the kids they know what's edible, and they come out here and just pick a little bit of it. But raspberry leaf is wonderful for women, and men too, but women too.
Beyond it here is strawberry. I'm letting some strawberry, I just threw some in and just kind of let them grow in the mulch. Tell us about strawberry leaf. I didn't know that was supposed to be.
Strawberry leaf is edible as well. I don't know much more about its benefits. I know a little bit more about blueberry leaf. It lowers high blood pressure. But all the berry leaves that we have growing here are edible, but depending on the berry that you grow on your property, you need to look up and see if its leaf is edible or not, because there are some berries that don't have edible leaves.
Do any of you know anything about strawberry leaf that might be interesting to all of us?
I know almost all of them contain high amounts of vitamin C. Vitamin A.
And you're getting chlorophyll. Anytime you're getting chlorophyll, you're getting, nature's blood. Good.
If it's green, it's got chlorophyll.
How about the pine tree here above us?
Oh yeah.
Vitamin, talk about that.
Vitamin C, more vitamin C than orange. You can make a good tea out of it. Pine is really good for respiratory ailments.
What part?
What part of the pine? The needle.
Yeah, and the new growth tip is the best.
The catkins?
Yeah. Whenever in the spring, as you're getting, what do you call them?
The catkins.
Catkins out on the tip. That's our ideal.
We have a book by Linda Runyon, this same author that wrote the Wild Survival Guide, called Eat the Trees. And it's a whole book on the edible trees. It's fascinating. She actually has lived it. She lived out in the Adirondacks and had a hard winter that bursted all her food, her glass food jars in her cellar, and she literally had to survive off eating tree parts. So it's an interesting book.
There's so much around us to talk about.
There's probably some wood sorrel at our feet. It's disappearing pretty quickly,
Yeah.
but this right here is wood sorrel. It's got the little heart-shaped leaves. Yeah, she recognized it right here.
It looks like shamrock. Most gardens, most lawns. Guarantee if you got a lawn anywhere around here, you'll find it more in the spring. Has a little yellow flower on it. There's a woodland sorrel that grows purple. Or in the shade. It's my favorite.
They do. They taste a little tangy, a little lemony. They're high in vitamin C. But the thing that's neat about these little wood sorrels is that at night or when it gets really hot, they'll fold up their leaves like they're going to sleep. So you'll notice they'll look a little different because they'll fold in half. But just look for the heart shape. When we were hiking in Oregon in the redwoods, I saw some sorrel, wood sorrel, that was like, the hearts on it were no kidding about this big. But it's all in the oxalis family.
Hold it still, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
What were you saying that was good for them?
It's just vitamin and nutrient rich. I'm not for sure. I just know it's an edible.
Yeah, we were eating some of that.
It's this one.
We just pulled some out of my
Little tiny ones. But they can get bigger. I mean, they can grow this tiny or they can get a lot bigger. But you see how this one's folding its leaves like
What's the difference between that and clover?
Yeah, like
clover.
yellow clover.
Clovers are edible too.
Or a salad.
But the clover doesn't have the heart. Clover just has the rounded end, correct? So look for the little heart. But red clovers, which are actually purple colored, those are really, really good. Good to eat, good for you.
The greens and the flowers?
The greens and the flowers are actually the most nutritional part of the tips.
What about the white?
I'm not for sure. I've heard that clovers are all edible, but it's the red clovers that are the best.
You just chop it up and just.
Okay, so like sorrel like that would be excellent to pick. If you're picking your greens for your salad and you have a little sorrel growing right there, which we usually do, just kind of mix in here. Grab a handful of that, sprinkle it in your salad, and you're going to get a little zing of like lemon flavor. It's wonderful. Whenever you look up a lot of these plants, the only caution that they have is eating large amounts of them where they're oxalates, which I believe blocks some absorption of some minerals in your body. But if you have it in conjunction with calcium, then it won't. That's not a problem. Most of these plants are super high in calcium, so I've read it's just really not a problem. You shouldn't worry about it.
Even spinach has it.
Yeah, spinach has oxalates.
Why don't we move down the lane here, and I'm just going to let you take a look at the garden, and I'm going to answer questions, and head for that shade on the other end of the orchard. Take your time and look at things. And whenever we get to the other side, we'll try
Out in the garden.
Are those the things in the scissors at it?
well, I just don't have to. I have had some black ones, but I put them yeah. You can tell them apart until they have fruit.
Your husband? Okay, yes, nice to meet you.
Finally got up.
Wow. Yeah.
Came at a hot time.
Yeah, you got your talent.
Yeah, just to keep it.
Everybody's curious
This is the top of turnips or radishes. Oh my gosh, I always forget one or the other.
So those little bulby
Yes. He just let it come up in all of it, the entire plant. Not really right now, but the entire plant had the flavor of it. And we were throwing these in salads. But this is the little seed pod. I believe. Hey, Dad.
Must be the watermelon radish that he was
I
talking
think it is a
about
watermelon
earlier.
radish, and I was fixing to say, that's what he told me. Is it watermelon radish? Okay, so these are the tops of the watermelon radish, and we were just enjoying them. And the asparagus, as you can see there, you can also eat those little fronds. He's gonna do it. Hey, Dad, pick a frond of the asparagus so they can.
If you're growing asparagus, you let it, eventually you need to let it make the fronds. But see these little laterals that come out? That's the best part of the asparagus.
It's like baby
I would
asparagus.
not believe that you could drop that on your salad, and people say, well, what is that? Well, you just eat it and try it.
To Vegas.
Try that.
Very hot. Yeah, very hot. Very hot.
And these little pods.
Going from
Yeah, they're just little seed
casino
pods.
to casino, I said,
He was saying that they had gotten hot.
Not really. No, I mean they might be now because they're set and the heat's been so bad. But it's like the same thing with the green peas. This is the first thing that comes up, and now they're all they've spent. All the green peas are gone. But all the leaves and the tendrils, they all taste like peas. So you just pick the leaves, pick the tendrils. There's so many parts of our veggies that we cut and throw away. And I've seen a book recently called Eat Your Compost. Because it's true. I mean, we throw a lot away that we really should be munching on that's nutrient dense. So. These are potatoes.
what's going on at the Space of Height. Just checking it out. My shirt was blessed.
Yeah.
You gotta stay hydrated. No doubt.
Actually,
I'm not used to it. We're from Fort Lauderdale. We're familiar.
So during the gold rush in
Coming up here, though, I'm
California,
not used to this
you know, the
weather.
49ers, they were suffering from scurvy, which is lack of vitamin C. Anyways, the Indians around there introduced them to this miner's lettuce,
I'm just
and
amazed.
that was just a simple, something they included to their diets and were able to not suffer from scurvy any longer. So it's pretty, like, it's one that I get when it's really little, really young because it's pretty strong. Yeah. Once it gets big, yeah. But a lot of those greens that get bigger and tougher, you can always cook them. You know, they're still edible, but you want to cook them and they're more tender.
Pray, watch this. Pray.
Right.
Yeah. So that is more snow.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great place.
Do you want to, Dad, do you want to tell them about how you do your potatoes?
Well, the potatoes, you know, my potatoes did not really thrive this year as far as plants, and I haven't dug in them to see, but they're actually on top of the ground. I just bury the potatoes under mulch and grow. But anybody else growing potatoes this year? Anybody else? Are your plants thriving, or are they kind of, I
I
don't
don't
know
have
what's
any
going on?
flowers yet.
Mine's?
Flowers off of mine.
Okay. So I hadn't dug in to see what's there, but why not? Let's see what's under there.
Last year he planted them with this method where he just sowed them right on top of the ground and then mulched. He had beautiful potatoes last year. The method really,
They
really
don't
worked.
get dirty that way.
They're just starting.
Yeah, they don't get dirty
They're just
that way.
starting to make. But see that? There's one.
Oh wow!
And you don't have to dig your potatoes. You just pick them up off the top of the ground. But
Kind of like plants have an egg.
What kind of mulch is it?
these were potatoes that were sprouting at the store. You know, and when they start sprouting, you guys don't want to buy them. So I thought, okay, I'll plant them. So that's what I planted. That's what you call recycling.
When do you cover with the hoops? When do you?
Well, whenever I planted these, I put the row cover over it for warmth. It really made my potatoes, like, you know, it was so cold. We had snow and all that stuff, and it kind of helped protect them.
When did you plant them?
I was gonna ask.
You know what? St. Patrick's Day is the traditional. I was about 3 weeks before that. And I would have had probably really good potatoes, but it just stayed cold for so long. Yeah. We had an unusual spring. It's almost like we didn't have spring this year. We went from winter to summer.
Summer to summer all of a
So
sudden.
you don't plant the potatoes, you just put them on the ground and
Yeah.
cover them with mulch?
Here, let me show you. I would take a potato like that, cut it 3 pieces, you know, and then I expose my mulch. I get down to the soil right there, and I put it right on top, and then I bring heavy mulch on top of it, just like that.
Can you do that with anything?
Not with anything, but potatoes do well that way. Yeah. Now, if I'm putting a plant in, I'll make a little hole in the ground instead, like these tomatoes, and stick those down in there and then bring the mulch up around it. If I'm planting seed like I did, by the way, there's some good sorrel right in there.
Oh, yeah, here's some great soil.
See those carrots down there, for example? I expose the soil like this. Get down to the soil like that. And then just take my finger and make little rolls like that and drop my seed in, get good contact like that, put a little water on it and wait for them to come up.
And then you put the mulch.
Then they come up and I kind of they'll have some weeds come up and then I bring the mulch back around it. Yeah.
Do you want to explain for those that don't know about your method of gardening, about your no-till?
Yeah, all that you see here has never been tilled. It started out as pasture. It was my dad's pasture. So it had Bermuda and Johnson grass and everything else in it. So what you do at first is you have to take a year to prepare this. You got to kill. Where you're standing is Bermuda grass. That's very invasive. And so you have to kill that. And the way you kill it is cut off the sunlight. So you have to take newspaper, cardboard, feed sacks, that kind of stuff, wet them, and just wallpaper the ground. Of course, if there's grass here, you need to cut it down, okay? And wallpaper ground, then put their mulch on top of it and leave it for a year. And all that's a food source, and you're smothering everything that's there. That's how Roundup works. Roundup shuts down the photosynthesis of the plant and kills it, but this is a natural way to do it. And kill it.
Monsanto less.
Amen.
And then,
There's a way of speeding up that mulch process if you don't want to wait a year.
okay,
Cut the grass like you're talking about, take like a 4-pronged spade for it. Put it in the ground, do not turn it, just break it loose.
okay.
That way you're not disturbing the microclimate underneath. Lay in your sheet mulch if it's cardboard. Lay in about 3 good heavy layers after you've wetted it. Put in layers of mulch, straw, leaves. When you want to put a mature plant, like from a potted plant, there's a hole down in through there, and you can go down through the cardboard if you need to.
Okay.
Put the plant right in it and you're ready to go.
So you're planting as soon
Right
as
on
you're
top of
mulching.
it.
So you're not waiting a
Not
year.
waiting a year. But you have to have a thick enough layer of cardboard and mulch if you don't.
How thick a cardboard? I mean, like a couple layers,
Oh,
couple, 3?
I do 2 or 3.
My concern with what he's talking about is knowing, like Bermuda. Bermuda, I've seen it run 5 feet under plastic and come up. So that stuff, it's just gravel. By the way, you see how there's trenching along my border? And I've told some of you in class what that's about. That allows the weed eater to cut that runner off of the Bermuda. So
It's
that's
sneaky.
that's how you keep the Bermuda back. And by having that that grass out there, like I was telling you today, Jay, that becomes a barrier for things wanting to run out there and spread. Like,
Not bad maintenance. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty easy to maintain.
and it's fun. If grandkids love running barefooted, and you know, it gives them a carpet to run on.
Now, what do you use when you're watering? I mean, do you do like soaker hoses? Or?
Well, as you can see behind you, today I was working on my drip irrigation for this the blueberry bed. There's 80 blueberry plants out here, about 6 varieties. The ones that are under the netting, this is our first year of production, and man, have we enjoyed those. The grandkids come out here and get up under that netting and just graze.
They do.
So it takes you about 3 years to really get them up to that size. If they're healthy and do well, that's what they'll look like in 3 years. And so that'll all be on drip irrigation with a timer, so I don't have to worry about it as far as water. What I do over here is you'll sit on the other side, it's like a tomato cage. I set it down, I put a oscillating sprinkler in here, set a timer at night whenever the wind lays down, and I'll just water this whole thing for a couple hours. The mulch really helps you hold. Did you see how much moisture there was down
That's
under
the
there?
best. Yeah.
Look at that.
That's the deal right there.
Yeah. But I have watered now, okay? But it helps to really hold that moisture. That is a red bud for your brother. Yeah, I have red buds come up in my mulch, and her brother lives in Dallas. They get $30 for a red bud tree at Home Depot. Little old tiny red bud, $30. So I'm gonna sell red buds to Texas.
You'll be a millionaire.
Tomatoes here, different heirloom varieties. We had peas earlier, and a lot of them didn't even get picked. Cucumbers coming up behind, and that's popcorn. That's what my grandkids call poppy corn. It's an heirloom of popcorn I grow, and that's just a must-have if you love popcorn. Grow your own popcorn.
Nothing like it.
We sell popcorn at Prairie Market, organic popcorn. I don't even buy it. You know what? I grow, and here's the thing: if you can keep it on the cob, it's incredible how good it stores on the cob. Don't take it off the cob. Whenever you get ready to pop popcorn, pull your 3 or 4 cobs out. You've had them stored in an onion sack, you know, in a cool, dry place. Shell them, blow the little dandruff out of there, you know, you get little husk things. Blow that out and throw that in your coconut oil, and it's to die for. And good for you.
Non-GMO popcorn.
Yep. All right, let's move on down. If you got any questions about blueberries, ask as you're going.
Yeah, what do you use any kind of fertilizer? What do you do to keep the acid? They like acid, right?
Yeah. What I did over here is I used sulfur. I used sulfur to keep my pH down. And I recently tested, and I was on average about 5, a pH of 5, which is hard to obtain that fast. But sulfur will get you there. Peat moss and sulfur and pine. Pine, all of that is acid. It really helps. That's one of the big secrets to growing blueberries, I believe, from what I know, is acidic soil.
Yeah.
That is cilantro, okay? And once it goes to the seed, you get spice, coriander from the seed. And the grandkids like that taste because it's licorice-y kind of, and they'll come out here and eat that. I tried some companion planting with corn, and it didn't have as much luck with it. So it seems like the corn just kind of shaped it. I think you got to get the combination maybe right of black corn and right. I've also read
This is what you got.
What are these? Yeah, you're right. I do have those.
You got a whole bunch.
That's what I got growing by the chickens right now.
I got raspberries.
Oh, you can eat them right now.
Got some big ones. Look at those things. There's a huge blackberry right there.
Yeah, I got some of my chickens. Going crazy.
Oh, I can't wait till they start blooming, and I'll be out there all day long.
They're still green right now. They haven't.
Mine are too. Mine are just starting to turn that color.
Yeah. I just lost flowers.
Yeah?
So now I got the greens coming through. Very cool.
I know.
Hop in there, sit down, and start eating.
I think this is it.
be out of here. Ideally, I've read that you can dry it like that, it's better. What I do is I've got in my shed there, I lay it down like that. And seem to do well. And let it dry.
Do you braid it then?
You can, the soft neck. There's two kinds of garlic. There's stiff neck and then there's the soft neck. This is soft. This stiff neck here, it becomes really stiff. You can't,
Done braid.
yeah, you can't braid that.
Is there a difference in the taste?
Yes, there are. And have you ever had elephant garlic? That's a stiff neck. It's huge, but it's kind of mild. Okay. The wild garlic in your yards, most people call it wild onion. It's wild garlic. I put some out here, and I've already harvested. I wanted to see what it's like if you harvest, if you cultivate it. And I grew some of that big, and it was quite mild. I would have thought it'd been real strong.
It smells strong when you
It smells strong, but it was real mild. So you can eat the garlic out of your yard.
Yeah, wild garlic is really good.
Yeah.
It was a staple food for the Native American Indians too.
By the way, one of my favorite flowers is just now blooming over there. That's Laetris. The common name is gay feather, and it's a prairie plant, and it's also a cultivar plant.
That's the purple one?
Yeah. Yeah, you see that in flower arrangements.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, floral arrangement. And you'll see some glads. See the glads budding over on the left. We had tiger lilies this year that were just gorgeous. And those things come back year after year. So that little thing of flowers and a little bit of sage over there, I don't do anything to it. It just comes back year after year. So that's one of those easy to grow. That encourages bees, encourages butterflies and beneficial insects. So do the sunflowers. And they give us all a feeling of, happiness and well-being when we look at them. So I like to just let things come up and stick plants in, flowers. Some people think that they benefit the plants. I'm not going to argue one way or the other. I don't know. They benefit me. So I like the plants. All right, let's move on to the shade. If you'll look to your left, you'll see where some fresh mulch is. And I'll tell you about when we get the shade. I just harvested wheat. I grew wheat for the first time. And that's ryegrass beyond that needs to be bundled. We bundle it. As a matter of fact, that'd be fun to show y'all. That little process.
Danger.
Here, Lisa. Take that home. I don't have my pruners on me. Does anybody have a knife or something I can cut some? Okay. I want to cut some rye here and show you. We've already harvested. Oh, good. Harvested the wheat. But have any of y'all ever hand harvested grains? No. I hadn't either. And like in my father's generation, when he was a young boy, they grew their own grains and they took them to the local mill and they had, you know, their own flour, they had their barley, they had their rye and all the other stuff they wanted. And I'm trying to learn more about this, and we're going to have some classes a little later on, because I really think that we now know some things about the wheat that's being produced and grown for us. It's got way too many chromosomes in it, okay? And we're going to grow an ancient wheat here next year, Lord willing, called einkorn, like Einstein, Ein, E-I-N-K-O-R-N. I want to grow some einkorn, which has 14 chromosomes. It's the old stuff, before it ever got bred with wild goat grass and some other things to make it the super wheat or the super stuff that it is. All right, of course, this is not the ideal tool, but I just wanted to show you a little bit about this. All right, thank you. What we did with the wheat, and I'll bring one out, the birds the birds just really got into the wheat. This is rye. You guys like rye bread? I love it. But you would take a bigger bundle than I have, and then you take a few of the stalks, and you just make a wrap with that. And tie that off. And that's a sheath, okay? But a sheath, you know, is much bigger. I'll show you one of the wheat. And then you go to the field and you stand that up and you start standing them around till you get about 14 to 20 of them standing on their end. And here's something we don't get in our grains today. The big combine comes in and cuts all of our grains off and starts the process of, they're starting to be processed right there in the field and taken to the big grain silos, and they're stored. They don't get to go through the natural process that our ancestors always had them to, and that was to stay in the field for at least 2 weeks. By being out in the field and going through the cycle of daylight and dark and even rain, the grains begin sort of a sprouting process in which the enzymes within the grains are released. That never happens in the grains that you and I buy today. And so the old way of doing the grains brings about a whole different product that a lot of people who are doing this are saying, I can't eat wheat, okay, because of the gluten that's in it. Even organic, I can't eat organic wheat, but I can eat that einkorn wheat that's grown and harvested by hand, because it's a whole different animal. So I'm in the process of learning this, and I wanted to see if I could grow it. I'll show you the wheat over here. I didn't even fertilize it. Planted it in the fall, covered it with row cover because the rabbit was eating it, and found that it really thrives under the row cover, and it did really well.
How many loaves of bread can you get from this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Einkorn.
E-I-N-K-O-R-N, einkorn. It's an ancient wheat with 14 chromosomes. It's not been crossed with goat grass.
So E-I-N-C-O-R-N.
No, K. Like K-O-R-N. You remember that call letters on Hee Haw? The radio station?
You've got to cut it.
Einkorn.
You've got to cut it. It won't just do it naturally. To dry as you need to have it dry and to have that change take place.
That's what I'm being told.
But you've got to cut it. Yeah.
We were just at Salt Lake, and we went to the Young Living Oils Conference, and we went out to where Gary Young is growing 120 acres of einkorn wheat. And he told this whole process. He's much ahead of us. The French are doing this, and that's where he got his einkorn wheat.
Right.
Okay. This is also happening in Oregon. You can buy einkorn wheat right now from Azure.
You can go over to Russia and get better food than we got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80 countries won't allow GMO food.
Sure.
We do.
Watch what it buy, because they'll crossbreed with it, like you said.
Well, you know,
Not here, but you have a week.
this whole GMO thing is of a great concern, because wheat growers are finding that that GMO is showing up where it should not be showing up. And I don't know. I don't know how we're going to grow corn and wheat and a few other things, regardless of how far away that stuff is, because of the pollen drift.
And it'll just spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
China's burning our imports. They've already burnt 3 whole loads of imports.
Japan I read today, Japan shut off grain imports from Oregon.
Yep.
And Oregon's #1 export was Japan.
They burn it.
Because they found GMO in it. Wow. It wasn't supposed to be there.
Explain to them about the gluten strand in einkorn versus wheat. That was very fascinating.
Let's see, what was it?
Something about how wheat has 30. It's a
Oh, I
more
said that.
complicated.
You probably didn't
okay.
hear it.
I didn't,
Chromosomes is what it is.
Okay.
Einkorn has 14 chromosomes, and the wheat we're growing today, I understand, has between 48 and 52
It's more
chromosomes.
complicated, harder for
Yeah,
you.
because it's a hybrid. Even though we think of wheat, you know, like I didn't know this was a hybrid, but in reality it is. Because it was crossed with goat grass, whatever that was, by the Romans back in the 400s. They found that it grew a little shorter and produced a little bit more.
Can you buy this and it's got the right properties?
Yeah, einkorn. Yeah. Google it and you'll see some sources for it. Hannah, Azure has it.
We sell it in our store.
We have some einkorn.
Yeah, we've been selling it and we sold out
Didn't know
like
that.
a couple weeks ago, but more's on order. So.
Okay.
So people that are gluten intolerant can eat that?
Sometimes they can.
People, they're finding that they can.
Yeah.
And another thing, just really quickly, that's helping people who are gluten intolerant
I'm gonna
digest
go get some
their
wheat
bread
and show 'em.
is make it sourdough. There's something about that fermentation process that
They say that ancient people, the Romans in particular, never ate any of their grains without fermenting them first. Because that's another process of releasing those enzymes.
Those are better tasting breads too.
Yeah, I mean, when you start eating sourdough and making it, it's easy to make, and it's just like, it's all you want to eat after that. You get spoiled. Yeah. Other types of bread, we're bread snobs.
You may not get, now remember, it's low in gluten. Okay, glue, hear that?
Glue.
So you can't,
Glue is ain't gluten.
she can tell you all about it, but you can't do with it like you can with stuff that's full of gluten.
Say I was gonna go get some wheat.
All right. Well, he gets wheat if you guys want to come this way towards the herb garden. Right here is our, this is albatross. We quarantined our mint because it's so incredibly invasive, and if you've ever planted mint before, did I say it right, albatross? What's that prison?
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, that's a bird. Alcatraz, this is our Alcatraz right here. We had 5 different types of mint in this bed, but for some reason this one is the dominant and it's taken over. But we have spearmint, pineapple mint, we have a chocolate mint. You guys can smell it, it's this one right here. It smells like an Andes, chocolate and mint together, it's really nice. But mint is, peppermint especially, is wonderful to soothe your digestive system. It's just a wonderful herb to grow. It's one that we include in our smoothies just for a little tinge of mint, and mint tea is wonderful to have. And over here is our herb garden where we grow a lot of stuff. One of my kids' favorite things to do is get one of these leaves. Can anyone identify this plant right here?
Stevia.
Stevia! They grab a leaf of stevia and a leaf of peppermint, and that's their candy, and they sit there and munch on it.
Which one is stevia?
This one right here, and here. But so in our green smoothies in the morning, the kids pick about 8 or 9 of these leaves, and that sweetens our smoothie. So if you're familiar with stevia in a store or a powder form, what color is it?
White.
White. What color is the plant?
Green.
Green. So it's something that last year I started drying in bulk on my own. So when these plants get big enough, I'll take them inside and dry them out, and then put them through my Vitamix and make my own stevia whole leaf green powder. Sweeten my teas with it, sweeten desserts with it. It's delicious. Stevia is a taste you have to acquire. When I first started eating stevia, I did not like it. But now, yeah, it's kind of bitter. But when I think this tastes better whenever you can grow your own. It tastes a lot better. Yeah. We have sage. This is a plant that we love called lovage. Lovage tastes a little bit like celery, but it has a bolder flavor. And when we first planted it about 3 or 4 years ago, my mom and I fell in love with it, just adding it as a special ingredient to a lot of our dishes. Chicken and dumplings, never the same without lovage. It dries really well too, so it's a good one to have in your spice cabinet.
Does it come back? Is it perennial?
Yes, it is. St. John's wort, and we have chives, and
Which one's the St. John's wort?
Which is St. John's wort?
right there.
This one? Oh, okay.
This one.
And let me step over here. If you guys want to get your handouts and look at the first page, this is our little purslane habitat right here and here. And I first got really excited about purslane when I discovered that it's one of the only plants that contains essential fatty acids, omega-3s. And I was like, wow, a plant does? You know, you usually have to eat fish to get that in your diet. And so I was pretty amazed, and then I tasted it, and I really fell in love with it. Really, really mild flavor. It's not like the lamb's quarters, you know, it doesn't even have a spinachy flavor. It's really mild. Maybe just a hint on the nutty side. You guys feel free, there's both these here. Just pinch off a leaf and try one.
Is
What
it
I
a
love-
smoothie or a salad type?
All the above.
All the above.
In the smoothie, it won't add any flavor. In a salad, it adds a neat texture and a little bit of a flavor. Like potato salads, just throw in some purslane leaves. It's just amazing.
What do you plant it in, sand?
Yeah,
Is that sand?
the sand. Purslane loves our driveway. That's where we first discovered it, was in our driveway on the hot. I mean, it's like the more
where I
you
found it.
abuse this plant, the more it grows. It's just,
And I need that. I usually use
it's amazing. A lot of people, this comes up in their garden, anywhere there's kind of sandy soil, but it will grow in shade, full sun. It will thrive in full sun in a condition like this. My dad always tries to like replicate where he found it. So you notice he put these rocks here because for some reason he thinks it likes the heat from the rocks and it's going to grow more. But you can see in the morning they're gone, but there's little tiny yellow flowers, little tiny yellow blooms that come out on the purslane that are beautiful. And if you eat 5 sprigs of purslane every day that are about 4 inches long, you'll get 550 milligrams of calcium.
Whoa.
For a woman like me, that's half my daily intake of calcium, and I do that easy with purslane. I'm kind of trying to back off because I could eat the whole plant and make it disappear. You know, you want to pick sparingly and let it grow bigger, but it grows all over our driveway. And you know, we drive on our driveway with tires, and you got to watch where you forage from because we don't want the runoff from tires and other things that we have around the house. So that's why we relocated it. But if you guys pick 2 plants, that's why I make copies of these 2 plants. If you could pick 2 to let grow in your garden or to find a special spot for them, lamb's quarters and purslane are 2 of the most amazing wild foods. Did everyone get to try it? Does anyone else want to try it? Here, I'll pick this leaf and you can just snag one off there and pass it around. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Right off of,
Yeah, just eat it. I put a little recipe on the back how you can pickle purslane. It's really easy to pickle. If you're making a batch of sauerkraut, if anyone's into fermented or cultured vegetables, throw any of these wild foods in. Throw your purslane in. Throw your lamb's quarters in.
Now what's this?
This is thyme. No, sorry, this is marjoram. And that over there's, no, that is oregano. That over there's oregano. This is marjoram. There's 2 types of thyme right there. And our rosemary just comes back every year, just does amazing.
What's this? What's the spidery looking thing?
This, I believe, is dill. This is dill that we've just let go. And it's got caterpillars that are going to make beautiful butterflies.
Yes. Morbid over here, so I'm going to tell them.
Smell it. Hey,
Good stuff.
I kind of introduced them to
Do they sting?
herb garden here.
The
in
caterpillars?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them about your orchard?
I hope not.
Well, the orchard is a bit of an experiment. I'm using some pest controls. It's really hard to grow most fruits in Arkansas. It's not like California and Florida and a few other places. Some of the funguses are really hard to deal with. But if you're familiar with Neem's oil, I'm using Neem's oil out here, and for an insecticide I'm using pyrethrin, which comes from the chrysanthemum flower. And so it's a much cleaner form of pesticide, but I can't tell at this point how successful I'm going to be. I see some of my trees that the fruit's looking pretty good, some of them not. I myself think I'm going to have to go more toward heirloom varieties of trees, fruit that's smaller, but fruit that can tolerate and just doesn't get the bugs. A lot of my trees here are from Starks, from places like that. You know how they show peaches that big and they show apples that big. And you can get them that big, but not in the way you want to do it. You're going to have to use a lot of chemical, a lot of water, a lot of spray.
It seems like pears, for some reason here, are growing very well, but then like other cherries too.
Yeah.
But the beetles, like you're going through with stuff, they can be aggressive. But the pears seem to do well. But like peaches, if you're not on top of it, it's very hard.
You're correct.
Pears, I mean, you can just leave them.
Depending on the variety of pear. Now, like my pear tree over there is one of those little sweet, what do they call them, the little round sweets? Asian pears. Asian pear, the fire blight just eats them up. And that poor little pear tree is just eat up with the fire blight.
Wouldn't you say that your fig trees do quite well?
Yeah, figs. See that tree right there?
The real bushy one.
Yeah, that bushy. Walk over there and look at all the figs that's on that. And I'd like to help you grow figs. You got to do a little winter protection of them, but my, there's nothing like a fresh fig.
I know.
And you don't have to spray, you don't have to do anything, just throw a little water on them. Keep them pruned back, they'll overproduce if you don't cut some of the sprouts out. But a fig is a kind of a new discovered fruit to this area.
And that's a really cute water.
With some protection.
What?
If you're interested in figs,
I
growing
couldn't stuff,
figs,
but yeah.
walk around and go to look in my courtyard where it's protected and look at that fig tree. It's really doing well.
You pruned it back this winter or this fall. So how short was it?
What?
Your fig tree.
I didn't prune that.
You didn't prune that one?
I insulated it. I wrapped it.
That's
Took
right,
every
you
limb
didn't
and I wrapped it with bubble insulation. I thought, I'm going to just see how big a fig tree I can get. That thing's going to be 20 foot tall by the end of the summer.
I make a note real quick. If
Yeah.
you're in fruit trees and you want to increase your yield about 20%, bring in mason bees, not honey. These masons are solitary bees. They do not run in hives. They do not sting, but they are a very aggressive pollinator. They are much more aggressive than honeybees.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I have a mason bee colony. I have a habitat, and I can show you how to build one. It's over on the other side of Hannah's house. Do you have one?
I'm building them now.
Okay, check mine out.
Okay, I will.
It's Mother Earth News. If you just type in Mason Bee Habitat,
Drill,
you just take a block and
3/16 hole.
Punch holes and really can.
Yeah. Inside,
No.
horizontal. Look at the habitat you're interested in.
if you're driving out the driveway, it's on. It's hanging on our fence back there.
You want it facing the east with the morning sun, but shady the rest of the
When
time.
somebody wants to be a jack of all trades, you can't do everything. You gotta
Yeah, I think you're talking about a dirt dauber.
focus on what it is. I grow live coral, but I can grow fish.
What time do we
If I
have?
can raise fish for ornamental reasons, I can
Oh,
grow fish for
six.
food.
We've been at it about an hour.
And like what he was saying about the wheat. You know what we're talking.
Just over there are some starts. I do cuttings, and sometimes from seed. And see those pots under the shade? In the first year, it was no
Wild garlic?
not to give away, I'm sorry, but if you put your request in, I'll get you some, Lord willing. Boy, that's easy.
It's easy?
That whole ditch line out there in my prairie, they like ditches. You got a ditch or probably some already in.
I have a few, but I wanted to make it warm, so how do you do it?
Well, just give them some sunlight. And in this case, I burned the prairie.
The reality of it is not for food production. However, you can do like raised beds.
That big tree there is not that old. It's 2 winters ago, it got killed all the way to the ground. So what you're seeing there is
It
the
records
second
everything.
growth. It made it through this winter.
Got surround sound, so he could be over there and get hurt.
If you've got one in a pot, you can plant it any time you want to. But if it's bare root, it has to be when it's dormant. I don't know, but when you order from nurseries, nearly always they're bare root, and so they have a shut-off deadline. But if you order something, you don't have time to put it out, peel it out, A-U-L, peel. Just stick it in the ground, cover it, or put it in a pot and water it. When you get time to plant it. But you can take cuttings off the figs and root them.
I just dry
If I know how many of y'all want figs, and I don't have to sign up on that, I'll try to grow you some.
What'd you say, simple sugar?
These varieties are a little more adapted. That's called brown Turkish fig, and it's the hardest one of all. The one in my courtyard up here is, I'm not sure what it is. It may be a variety called Alma, but it's the yellow one, it's green, and then turns yellow, but they're that big.
That's my Prairie.
It's not as hard. If you look beyond that,
And your neighbors are looking at you going, she's
no, that one except one in my courtyard, maybe, because I insulated.
Well, I ran over one of these. What is that? Big fuzzy plant that looks mullen.
the first year it does.
No, the sun, right now it is. This is not in
I should have picked it up out of the ground.
the sun that comes out over this. You're looking due south right there.
So, Dad, do we want to dip into the prairie some to look at some more wilds, or too hot?
If you feel like hanging around and you'd like to look in the prairie, it's well worth the walk. We can look at native species, and you could just go a little ways if you want to, and it gets too hot, come back. If you're really into it, we'll go all the way to the back of the prairie.
How about should we start on this corner, get a sip of lemonade on our way?
That's a really good idea. I'm thirsty.
You're so smart.
Yeah. So walk down the driveway, and right at the corner, we're going to take a right, and there's a trail off into the prairie.
Do we have a water source?
These old
Yes,
peach trees,
yes. There's a picture of water up there.
Do you want to wrap this
these
up?
old peach trees came from Newton County.
Say something?
Yeah.
I heard the
Thank you
story
for joining
that some
us.
hippie guy years ago